To Dr. Allen, the last resort, I suppose. Maybe if those attempts don't work, is another referendum on independence, which was very clear in their manifesto. Looking at the economy just now of Scotland, how might an independent Scotland fare under Brexit, but being able to stay in the European Union, if that's possible?
Well, it would be a bit tricky. We're in a pretty difficult fiscal situation, really because of the oil price fall. So last year, the deficit was £14.9 billion, 9.7% of Scottish GDP. Now, if you're going into the EU, the rules say, politics might say otherwise, but the rules generally say that you have to commit to joining the euro. If you commit to joining the euro, you have to obey what's called the Maastricht criteria, one of which, for example, is that the deficit should be no more than 3% of GDP. Now, what that would mean is that Scotland has to find basically around £10 billion worth less public spending than it currently has. Now, some of that is sort of imputed stuff like defence, which we don't, it's not really, doesn't really happen in Scotland. 3 billion of that. So Scotland might not have any defence forces.
That's not a real cost, maybe.
Yeah, it's not a real cost at the minute. We might refuse to take any debt, which would have consequences, but that would save us another 2.7 billion. But if you're looking for £10 billion in total, in terms of a cut, just to put that in perspective, that's worth 70% of the welfare budget, all of the spending on state pensions, unemployment benefits, all of these issues.
But I suppose it all depends on timing, whether Scotland could be independent in the European Union or whether it would have to reapply. But actually, if Scotland was independent in the European Union, there could be great benefits, I suppose, and maybe in terms of financial services.
Yeah, I mean, one thing certainly to say is that the oil price might recover, which would make the finances of Scotland look better. But certainly it's true that if Scotland was part of the EU, then it might, and England not, then there might be an opportunity to attract businesses from south of the border into, a very comparable business climate here in Scotland.
That's the key, I suppose, for Scotland, the oil price, isn't it? Because, I mean, if this had been 3 years ago, we'd have been looking at quite a positive scenario, I suppose.
Yes, and actually the fall in the exchange rate should help the North Sea because its costs are mainly in pounds and they've fallen relative to the price of its output. Oil is always priced in dollars. So, the fall in sterling actually should give some encouragement to the Grampian area and North Sea generally.
So,